Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Nationwide at 5. We're inside the segment we call The Cover Story. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Chevon Campbell.
How are you, Chevon?
Doing quite well.
It's nice and overcast.
Nice and overcast?
Yes,
Those
man,
two words I've ever seen used.
Yeah, man. That's my kind of weather. Yeah, nice and overcast and cool. Yeah?
Cool, I'll agree with.
And if you're at home and you're warm and comfortable, my bad mind you. Just know. But in the cover story this afternoon, a debate on the state of the nation's roads. Listeners, a war of words has developed between the ruling Jamaica Labour Party and the opposition People's National Party over the state of the country's road network. The Prime Minister is pushing back against criticisms of his administration's management of the network.
Providing an update on the $40 billion Spark program in the House of Representatives on Tuesday, Dr. Holness says the country's road network deteriorated long before his administration. However, the Prime Minister says his administration is the first to create the economic muscle to resolve the situation. He says many of the same politicians who are now complaining about the state of the country's infrastructure failed to make any meaningful improvements during their time in office.
Mr. Speaker, we have seen politicians come and pontificate and make promises about roads, pothole free by 2003. Mr. Speaker, we are here in 2024, and the people who made that promise then are the same people who are coming now to complain. Why didn't they make Jamaica pothole free in 2003? You know why, Mr. Speaker? Because they did not create the economy to do it. And what they do now is to go around and play upon people's frustration without looking at exactly what needs to be done. Well, this administration, Mr. Speaker, knows exactly what needs to be done.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness. So, who is at fault? Joining us now to discuss, we have opposition spokesman on works, Mikael Phillips, and member of the JLP's communication task force, Marlon Morgan. Gentlemen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Marlon, good afternoon to all your listeners.
Mikael Phillips, let me start with you because you took issue with the Prime Minister's framing in the Parliament yesterday. Why?
Oh, well, the Prime Minister is behaving as if he is not in it isn't his administration that is now has formed the government, and he has been the Prime Minister for near 9 years now. And as I reminded him yesterday, as he likes to keep going right back to the 18 years of when the People's National Party was in government, that 18 years ended in 2007, 17 years ago. And his party has been in government for 13 of those 17 years. So if it is that anyone had the opportunity to make a change, would have been him during his tenure. And he's now trying to blame others for why his own administration had not made any impact on the road network. So, it was a wholesome debate, and I find that yesterday was not the first time that the Prime Minister is trying to cast blame on others for his failure.
Marlon Morgan, isn't that fair? Last 17 years, the JLP has been in power the majority of the time, and Mikael Phillips is saying it's time now that you take accountability and responsibility for the challenges the country faces. Isn't that fair?
Well, one of the things in conversations like this, gentlemen, is that there are persons, perhaps Mikael numbers amongst them, who are not keen on providing appropriate context, and that's where I would like to start. Now, the Labour Party administration has indeed been in office for just about 9 years now, yes? However, Jamaica has considerably aging road infrastructure, and that has largely been exacerbated, particularly in recent times, by the volume of vehicles that traverse our roadways. So the stress on the roads, and importantly, the realities presented by climate change, because that is a phenomenon that is in our society. It affects us, particularly as a small island developing state. And so the truth is that we have had years of neglect exacerbated by increased stress on the roadway, roadway that is aging to begin with and increase the volume of rainfall. And the point being made by the Prime Minister, the context being provided by the Labour Party is that for many decades we have not been able to maintain and address in any substantial way our road infrastructure here in Jamaica, and that has not been as a result of a lack of willingness so to do, but largely as a result of Jamaica's inability to do so adequately based on not having the financial capacity to respond in a timely manner. And it is for this reason why I am bringing your listeners' attention to the sharp distinction that is to be made here. We do have challenges along our road network in terms of roads being in a state of disrepair. For the first time, however, you have a situation where a government, as is happening now with this Andrew Holness-led JLP government, is in a position to more effectively and sustainably respond to it based on having built up, based on having managed the economy in a certain way and build up the resources to be able to maintain the road infrastructure, because that is what has eluded us over many years. During the PNP's 18 and a half years, for example, they had many years of deficit financing. We simply did not have the financial wherewithal to respond, and this government is responding. Problems there are, but the Jamaican people need to look to who is better placed to devise and implement the solutions to the problems. And I am submitting this evening, gentlemen, that it is the Jamaica Labour Party, the Andrew Holness administration, that is better placed. So
you call it context. So you laid out what you say is the context of the situation we find ourselves in. But what do you say to the Jamaican, the voter who is listening and says, I don't want to hear what happened in the past. What I want to hear now is the solutions for the future and why you're not getting on with it so that I can see the tangible results. What do you say to that person?
Excellent, because persons are impatient of any blame game. Persons out there want to drive on good roadways. They want their cars to be in an optimal state and not having to be falling into potholes all the time. And we do appreciate that, and that is why we are saying we have devised a program, the Spark program, in addition to the REACH program, where we're not only setting aside resources to lay over roads and build roads, we are also putting in resources in the scheme of things to treat with critical drainage and water-related infrastructure. Because oftentimes in Jamaica, we have had a situation where we have put down asphalt, and then here comes the NWC digging up the roads again and frustrating people further. So the point we're making is that this government has gone out and we have ascertained the information. The NWA has been undertaking an audit, comprehensive audit of our road network across Jamaica. They have determined that we have just about 27,000 kilometers of roads. They are developing the data because we did not have even reliable data to begin with, and this has been a phenomenon over many years. So you cannot begin to scope and fix what you have not determined or measured. And so we have started with that. We're putting in the systems-related support to be able to more effectively schedule and develop a program to maintain our roads. And it is backed by the financial resources, not borrowed funds, as we saw with Omar Davies and PJ Patterson. We're doing it with Jamaica's own money, because these are the dividends from managing your economy in a good way and building up the financial capacity to be better able to respond. We are not where we would want to be financially as a country in terms of having all the resources and all the capacity to fix all the roads at once. But as a government, we're craving the indulgence of the Jamaican people. We're craving their understanding. We are building the capacity to be able to fix the roads.
And Mikael Phillips, I'd like to put that to you. Is that an unfair assessment and an unfair request from the governing JLP that, the problem of the road network has been a cumulative one, and now the funds exist to solve it? Just give us a little bit more in terms of patience.
All right, so let us, look at the Prime Minister himself, not me, not anyone else, but the Prime Minister himself, has really gone out there and promote Spark as the answer for the neglect that the road network has been given over a period of time. Now, I remember standing up in Parliament, we had some floodings in Clarendon, and asking are we going to develop a national plan at looking out at our drainage? In 2019, the Prime Minister stood up at a press conference at Jamaica House and announced that he has completed that overall national plan looking at our drains and how it is that we're going to be implementing it. A few months ago, I asked him in Parliament, is it possible to put that up, table that in Parliament as a green paper? What is the way forward? I've been asking for a national plan in how it is that we are going to develop our roads and maintain our roads. I've been saying for a long time, myself and the People's National Party, that we have to look at a maintenance plan. I even asked the question, after Spark, where is the maintenance plan? We can come with different acronyms, different programs. What is the long-term plan for our road network? Spark is not the answer. And let me just remind Mr. Morgan that Spark is not being financed out of central government budget. I asked the question yesterday. We have the money for year one, which is coming from the securitization of 12 years of revenue from the Norman Manley International Airport. What about phase 2 and phase 3, as the Prime Minister said, so about a 3-year period? What of those? So after we have secured phase 1, then what happens to the other years? Because there's no way central government will be able to take $20 billion out of the coffers for 3 financial years to finance a project like Spark and not put other infrastructural and capital projects.
Hold it there, hold it there for us, gentlemen. We're up on the break. Hold it for me, Mikael Phillips. The nation's leaders debated yesterday in the House of Representatives the state of the roads. The Prime Minister is maintaining that the deterioration in the network did not occur under his administration, but he's determined to fix it. We have with us Opposition Spokesman on Works, Mikael Phillips, member of the JLP's Communication Task Force, Marlon Morgan. Before the break, Mr. Phillips, you mentioned phase 1 of Spark, and you're pressing the point of what will happen in phase 2, the maintenance of Spark. The Jamaican people are hearing your party now campaigning for office. You want the chance to lead. Conceivably, you'd become the Minister of Works. What would be your plan for the maintenance of the roads going forward?
Well, we will reinstitute the road maintenance fund, looking at the funding that was going to the RMF. Joining hands with the Ministry of Local Government, looking at the fundings that they get, and then seeing how best we can put it together. We may not have the funds in place in one term, because you'll have to see the RMF in a proper way that it can do the worthwhile work that is needed. While we are developing roads, I think we have to find a different method, because we have for too long look at cost and seeing how we get more mileage for less money, and try and do the roads with a better method that they can last longer. We would look at concrete roads in areas, especially where there is higher rainfall and the water tables are higher. It is going to come at an additional cost. But at the same time, look at the community's national plan at looking at our town centers, especially and areas where we have high rainfall and drainage is a problem, because many of our drainage network was built when we had town centers that had a few hundred people. Now we have quite a few thousand.
Well, but a lot of that, Mikael, sounds like long-term planning. So why shouldn't the Jamaican people accept that the Spark program, as outlined by the Holness administration, is the way to go, rather than a program that you seem to be still costing out and would take a longer time to begin implementation? Why shouldn't they accept that Spark is the way to go?
I have never said that the Spark is not a start. What I have said is, when you look at the Spark, all right, let's look at the Spark overall.
But before we look at the Spark, explain to me why they shouldn't accept that this is the way to go, rather than your seemingly more long-term approach, which wouldn't give them the results they want now.
The Spark is a $40 billion program. We have not yet seen the plan. I'm asking, what is the plan going forward? It was Minister the minister with responsibility of works, who said there is no maintenance plan in dealing with Spark. We cannot be expending $40 billion. And the reason why I'm saying that we will do different is that they had 14 years to 13 years to institute a proper program. Jamaica is not Kingston alone. If you come to rural Jamaica, right? I am now in Clarendon, and it is the worst roads that I have seen in a very long time. The worst.
May I come in here, Ricardo?
Yes, Marlon Morgan, actually, because I would like... That is fair on the part of Mr. Phillips, because let's say if Spark is completed in the next 3 years, will we be back here in the next 20 years discussing how that deterioration has taken place? What is the long-term solution in terms of maintenance?
I'm very happy for the opportunity to convey the following. What the PNP oftentimes do when they're having conversation is that they set up straw men and then try and tear them down. They seek to have a discussion or raise an argument that is not actually being made. So the foremost point here is that Spark is not the be-all and the end-all to road maintenance and build-out here in Jamaica. The Prime Minister presented a post-cabinet press briefing last Wednesday, and he outlined in no uncertain terms and in a comprehensive way how it is that the government is going about addressing this vexing issue of road infrastructure here in Jamaica. And it begins first and foremost with what the National Works Agency has been embarked on in recent weeks, and that is a comprehensive audit of Jamaica's network of roads. You are driving the corridor of the roads to eyeball the problem and putting that in a database. So you're starting first and foremost with data. Then you're building internal capacity and you're building systems. You're putting the network into a computer database where you are determining now a schedule how to treat with roads. But importantly, one of the observations we're making is that what has eluded us over many decades, the resources that is, we are now in a better position so to treat with. And I shudder to think, because I would have heard from Mikael just now about the road maintenance fund, and there's a degree of cognitive dissonance emerging here, because if you think about it, the PNP has oftentimes called for the reduction in the yield, or the reduction rather in the gas tax, and therefore they would be ceding revenue. So how can you be proposing to reduce gas tax or cede revenue and then suggest that you want more money in the road maintenance fund or tap money from the road maintenance fund to treat with road maintenance? The two do not compute, they do not reconcile, unless you're simply seeking to hoodwink the Jamaican people. And it is for that precise reason why he struggled to articulate in a compelling and coherent way a while ago what it is that he would do were he minted tomorrow morning as Works Minister. And I'll go further to say this. The government not only has a comprehensive program in place to treat with road maintenance, separate and apart from Spark. That's why we're building that out. Cliff Twang said many years ago, about 13 or so years ago, that if you do not understand it, you cannot cross it. And that is what is coming out from Mikael's discourse, because he doesn't understand that in successive budgets to come, the government will be making allocations as it relates to phase 2 and phase 3 of Spark. We are treating with 2024, 2025, and we would have made budgetary allocations accordingly, because you're dealing with what you have the capacity to do in any particular financial year. So financial year 2025, 2026 will speak for itself, and he cannot preempt Favour Williams as finance minister, and he ought not to be preempting the government in relation to its fiscal program as determined by the budget for the country.
Let's hear Mikael's response.
I go back that this $20 billion for Spark did not come from taxes that the government collected. It is borrowed funds, whichever way you want to craft it. It is borrowed funds of securitization of 12 years of revenue. So are you saying that you are going to keep on borrowing to do road maintenance and road projects? We have never, and I don't see where we are going to in the short period of time ahead of us, where we are going to find enough monies within central government budget to maintain the road networks as We need to.
So you're not accepting the NAA's maintenance
But
fund?
he's being
No,
proactive.
Hold on, Marlon. Hold on, Marlon. So what about the
hold on,
maintenance
hold
fund
on,
of the
hold on,
NAA, the
hold on.
$4 billion a year? You're not
Hold on.
accepting that as sufficient?
$4 billion is what NAA has been getting for the last 9 years, every year for road maintenance. And it is inadequate by NAA figures. And the Prime Minister said it once in Parliament, that NAA needs $1 trillion to bring all the road network up to an acceptable driving condition. I don't expect that the government is going to find $1 trillion. But what, Robert, what is a long-term plan? Reach, as we have it now, is the same $4 billion that was approved in April of this year for the budget for the National Works Agency. It is no different than what was in the budget. Right? And all I'm saying is, we don't have to argue, all of us want a better road network. Our approach might be different. Yeah? All I'm saying is, what is the medium, the long-term plan? Yes, you're doing the surveys of all the roads. That could have been done already, because between the National Works Agency and the municipal councils, right, you have 27,000 kilometers of roads across the island. It is going to take $30 million, National Works Agency figures, to overlay 1 kilometer of road.
Mikael had the first word. Marlon, I give you the last word. We're out of time. Let me give you the last word, Marlon. Mikael had the first word.
I think the
no
government.
long-term plan, Marlon. Just accept that.
I think the government, which is the team of people who actually have a plan and are building out a program to maintain road infrastructure in Jamaica and support it with the financial resources, are the people with the greater moral authority on this issue and in the better standing on this issue. Because the point to be made is that the $1 trillion, for example, that would be needed to sort out Jamaica's roads would not be found in any 1 year, because Jamaica simply wouldn't even have the capacity to do all our roads in any one financial year. So the point is that it is over a medium to long term that all the maintenance work and the road construction work is to be essentially put in place and rolled out. And what we're seeing now is that Spark is an important start in the scheme of things. It will be fixing a considerable number of roads, and the people have had a say in making a determination as to which roads are to be fixed, certainly in phase 1 as it relates to Spark. We actually have a plan, and we are implementing that as we speak, and the people of Jamaica will be traversing better roads in the weeks and months ahead. And that is a far cry from what the PNP is proposing to come with, which is a plan which is just empty.
Mikael Phillips, Opposition Spokesman and Works. Marlon Morgan, member of the JLP's Communication Task Force. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much, gents.